Hollie and Chelsea, who are co-founders of Her HQ, a community for freelancers and service providers. Her HQ helps women leave their 9-to-5 corporate jobs and start their own online businesses. Chelsea started her business as an OBM in America, and Hollie was a brand and website designer in the UK. They met in a Facebook group in the year 2020, and with 1 year of starting a business together, they made over $600,000 without ever meeting in person. Since then, Hollie and her husband now have moved to the States, and now Hollie and Chelsea run Her HQ in person together, and they say they are business married, which is perfect for our theme of partnership
Love it.
this episode. So clearly there's a lot of nuance and details from, hey, how are you, in a Facebook comment, to do you want to move to America and start a corporation together?
Yes.
Yes. So could you kind of go over like what that process actually looked like and how that even came to be?
Yes. That is crazy when you say
Really
that.
wild when you say it back to us. It felt different. It felt like not the average path that people choose, but I don't know that it felt as wild. But when you hear people summarize it, or if I heard someone else do it, I think, oh my.
That is crazy. So yeah, met in a Facebook group. We were both independently running our own done for you businesses. I had a client, they needed some branding work done. I went in a Facebook group, asked who people recommended. Everybody recommended Hollie. Wonderful. So that was like kind of point one of our connection. And we just like maintained that. I think we worked together on a couple client projects throughout the year. And so really like the first immediate thing that happened is once we started talking, we realized that we ran really big done for you businesses and neither of us were coaching. And so that was like a big thing where at the time we just had that in common, and we weren't at the time looking to coach. But what had happened was I scaled my business to be making a lot of money, like $50,000 a month just as an OBM. Hollie was selling branding projects for like 10 to 15 grand a piece. And so we started getting these sort of requests to do mentorship. So I started doing mentorship with people like me. So did Hollie. And through just conversation, we decided, what if we created like our own community where other done for you providers could come and like ask questions and like let their hair down? Because often in the done for you world, when you're in Facebook groups, you're kind of looking for clients. So you're not going to just not going to post the same kind of questions as you would if you were in a community of just people like you. So that's kind of step one was, okay, what if we just kind of had our own little pod of the internet where we like loved on and nurtured people. Mm-hmm. And then I think from there we started kind of secretly dating.
Yeah. Like basically I feel like we both kind of like, I'd always found the idea of a business partner interesting, but it had been just something that I wasn't intentionally looking for. Just the idea of it had always been of interest. And I think it was like Chelsea was kind of similar, and we just kind of got on. But I'd say what's interesting about us is we weren't like friends before we decided. We like knew of each other.
Yes.
But we didn't have this like deep friendship. And we actually kind of went into it like, okay, I think I would like to marry you. So let's get into it. Tell me everything.
Like an arranged marriage, basically. I'd say that is probably where we initially came together, and what attracted us, I mean, not physically, even though I do have a wife, what attracted us to each other was the fact that we could do really different things. So like I'm all like tech ops, backend automation, platforms, like that is my jam. If you would like me to design something, no, I won't be
doing all these things. Also, what's interesting is like the types of businesses we ran were so different. Our outlooks on things are very different. What's really interesting is on paper, when you list out everything about me and everything about Chelsea, it seems like, would we even be friends? Would we even have much to talk about? Because we are so different. Like I love to travel and have been to over 40 countries. Chelsea hadn't like left the US until she met me. So it's like there's so many things, but actually I think when it came down to it, we were both quite intentional. And when we started, we literally said, okay, tell me everything about you. And we just got into like quite deep conversations quite fast. So nothing was ever very surface level. I think it is literally like actual dating when you're trying to find a personal life partner. if you kind of just have these fairly surface level conversations and you never really state what you want and you never really show them who you are, you're probably not going to find someone who's the perfect match, and it's probably going to take a little longer.
Yeah.
Whereas actually for us, we went in pretty deep pretty fast. Like, tell me about you, tell me everything.
Yeah. I'd say we also though stepped into doing business together.
Yeah.
So the whole like met in a group to then like Hollie moving to the States, that's freaking insane. But so the first thing we ever did was Hollie actually launched publicly these templates. We agreed behind the doors that we would split the profit, because I built out all the funnels, I built out all the tech, but no one on the surface level would have known that I was involved. So we like kind of did something together, but like we knew, but it was private, and we saw how that went and we really liked it. And it was like, okay, that worked pretty well. I mean, there were some obvious kinks that we had to then talk through and discuss.
But the
and
stakes
then
were quite low.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't public. It was like, let's see how we work together on a project without telling the whole world. And that felt really safe for us.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we sold a class, and then we like built our first program. So it was sort of this like small progression of things together. I'd say from day one, we didn't get on a Zoom call, both like the same coffee and sign a piece of paper saying we were business partners. Like we actually very much, like we really like tiptoed into the journey, and we only did things like step by step, but then every step we built more trust and rapport to where probably after dating privately for
couple of months. What's interesting is I feel like we had intentions to do these, like, we are official, we're like officially together now. And we had intentions to do we're an Instagram official together post, but we basically never did it because we just kept doing more things. And then it got to like probably 6 months down the line, and it was like, I mean, feels a bit weird to do it now because obviously we're married. Like, people just do know that. They know us as we run our business together. We don't do anything else. This is all we do. So I think we also just never made this huge big deal out of it. It was something that just happened quite organically. And I think from the outside, it happened really organically. From the inside, we were pretty like all in immediately. But within like safe containers and parameters that allowed either of us to have like an out that wouldn't be like offensive. You know, it's like, okay, we tried this little project. If this didn't work, that's totally fine. We can part ways, and it's not this big deal.
So at what point were you guys like, oh, this is like the real deal? Like, this is not only marriage, but this is going to be like a lifetime venture that we need to start getting like really serious about, like even like the legal process involved.
So we like kind of start those conversations. So this is like, don't do this at home, but we started these conversations in the summer of 2020. Black Friday 2020 was the first time we ever sold anything, and that was the templates, which was like behind the scenes. That worked really well. Then we sold some masterclasses, then we sold some other things, and kind of by the January we were like legally. So the first bit before that was like, basically, I trust you, so don't like fuck me over. But it wasn't all the bells and whistles legal. Then in the new year, we did all of that, hired the right people. And at that point, we made the pretty big decision to hire an immigration lawyer, and we decided that I was going to move to the US.
Okay, but we actually have to give like the funny details. So, okay, I'll have to like preface this. So in the past, before Hollie and I worked together, I actually did join a company as a partner. It was only like a 90-day sprint. Ultimately, we did not move forward with that relationship. So I was a little non-committal. I was a little scared to do it again. So actually we have this like internal funny joke that basically Hollie gave me an ultimatum, and it was like, you can put a ring on my finger or like we're literally breaking up. So I was like, oh my God. But it's just because I was like just nervous again that I would like commit to something and then it wouldn't go as planned. And then that's just like not a fun thing to have to deal with. So I think that really what it actually came down to was Hollie's like, listen, either we're in this or like I'm moving on and we're going to not do this anymore. So I actually had to get like my ass on the line and say, okay, fine. Like, yes, let's do it. But I actually appreciated that. Because I mean, Anna, you know me, but I kind of like bulldoze people. I don't mean to be. I'm just a bit of a heavy hitter. And that was like the time where she was like, like you literally need to make a decision because I can't just like continue to be in limbo. And that's when I was like, oh shit, like, okay, this is like for real. And we were going to actually do this. But Holly, when did you decide you were going to move to America?
It was literally in the January. I had my first, because like, so I'm on an E2 visa, and so it is like very complex, but it was literally in January that I started like having calls and doing research. And then it was, I think, end of January, we like officially like paid like the immigration lawyer who then helped us with the whole process. And I mean, that is quite dramatic. From like the first time we ever sold anything, it's basically end of November, 2 months later, hired a lawyer with a plan to move. And like, I mean, I never even visited North Carolina.
Yes,
ever.
you literally applied to move to a country that you've literally never been to.
But that's indicative of like your personality though. Because I'd say you're like a really big risk taker and like a go with the flow and you'll figure out your plan later. Whereas like I would no, literally never would ever do that. But that's actually so like you and like what you guys would do. So
But at the
my husband
time,
was just like down for the risk too. He was like on board, like, yeah, sure, let's move to a place with a person that neither of us have ever met, to a place neither of us have ever been to. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, great.
But did you I mean, obviously like hindsight is 2020, but like when you were like applying for the immigration visa and all of these things, like very early on, like you were saying, did you ever anticipate it was going to turn into this like huge empire that you would be building? Like what were your like realistic like expectations for how it was going to go, like your business?
I always had faith that this is what it would be. I think as soon as we met, it was like, I don't know. And me and Chelsea always say this about
Kismet.
like each other and our, you know, husbands' wives.
Yes.
There's really many people that I could spend so much time with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love my husband and love Chelsea. And they're probably the only two people in the world that I could spend that much amount of time with and also see myself like with for a long time. And I think like me and Chelsea really went into this thinking we are so much better together. We're not just 1+1. It actually, it's so much bigger than that. And I think we both had like so many complementary skills that it could be more. I think there's like one thing to have the faith and then it actually comes true and it's like, oh my, like, of course there's like parts where you go, can we really, that is quite a leap, you know, from those very early days where it does seem wild, but I think I did always have the faith that it was going to be this way because otherwise it was quite a big risk to do something.
You had a long-term vision. It seems like you had both of you had like the same long-term vision from day one. So like that was never up in the air of like, what are we actually doing?
See, what's funny is I actually think that so our human design, if you're into that, cool. If you're not, you should be. And I'm not even into the woo bullshit and I'm into it. Yeah. So Holly's a projector and I'm a generator. I basically have no idea ever really what the fuck is going on. I'm just here for the energy and I will bring the energy. Like, what do you want us to do? We're going to do it. Whereas actually I'd say Holly is much more like you want me to set a goal. I'm uninterested in that. I don't want to set a damn goal. I don't know what my goal is. That's like Holly's jam. So that's another, I think I think that worked out perfectly because if it had to be me moving, immediately
it would have been a problem.
Canceled. I won't be doing that.
Yeah. Well, even when I texted you, I'm like, hey, can you tell me what dates are available? You're like, I cannot be bothered with this. You, like, text Holly.
You're like, please message my wife.
Yeah. Please text my wife and see what we're up to that week. I don't know.
Yes. Or even when the three of us were planning our trip last year, you're like, I cannot be bothered with finding an Airbnb. Please text Holly.
Holly will find it. I don't know.
My wife will let you know our availability.
Literally.
I think this is actually what a lot of people like don't know about us is like the insides of like how it works. It is totally husband and wife and mum and dad.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I have so many clients who actually one of their long-term goals, or even in the next like 1 to 2 years or 5 years, like their goal is to, retire their husbands or their spouses or, their boyfriends, whoever their partner in life is, and hire them as like the COO of their company or, just have them be an actual 50-50 partner in their company. And like, that sounds great. It's kind of like a dream. But then there's so many things that like people don't realize of like how much actually goes into it. So what were like, I mean, now that you're physically in person together, but even like starting off during that year where you didn't meet for an entire year, Like,
Yeah.
what were like challenges that you had of like what do you do when you don't agree on things, or what do you do when you don't agree on like expenses, or just like how a campaign should be run? Like, there's so many like challenges that could like prevent you from just calling it quits, that I see
Ye-
of.
Yeah, I'd say that. So I think there's two elements of this. I think that number one, though, this is our opinion. I actually think it's almost damn near impossible to go into business with somebody who you have the same passion and the same area of expertise. I feel like that's got to be really, really hard,
Yes.
because I can't imagine, like, I watched the show, Studio McGee. She's a
Oh,
designer.
yes.
So she's a designer and he does the money. He ain't picking out no freaking pillows. You know what
Oh,
I mean? Like,
100%.
he don't know shit about the wallpaper. Yeah, get your paint on, get your couches. I don't care. Hollie and I operate in the same way. We're like, I own certain elements and then Hollie owns certain elements, and we run ideas and like big decisions by each other. But we're not like, I'm not also fighting for like the branding decision. Hollie's not fighting for like the
Yep.
operations and the tech. I think that I don't know how that feels. I feel like, I mean, for me, I don't think I could be in a partnership with somebody who thought, I will fist fight you. No, like, I own my area and tell Hollie like what is going to happen and ask like if that's cool with her. But fundamentally, she just is like, yeah, cool, that's fine. And then same with Hollie. So actually, I act literally insane about money. Please don't show me any of the numbers. I will freak the fuck out and everybody's fired. No, it freaks me out. I don't like it. Please don't show me the expenses. I will literally have a meltdown. So actually, Hollie just owns that area and gives me like the summary of what's going on, because we just know our strengths and our weaknesses and we like lean into that.
I think that's actually important, is you have to first be able to identify your areas, and you really have to put like your ego aside.
Yeah.
Because even in that example, it would be easy for Chelsea to say, no, I don't want to admit that about myself. It's fine. Tell me everything, keep me in the loop. But actually, by Chelsea being able to say, you know what, like, I don't need to be involved in that part as much. This is where we need to be involved. But actually, like, you own this, and I feel no type of way about it.
Yeah.
So like, once you put the ego aside and you realize every decision we make is ultimately for the best of the business. And so it's not about us individually, and it's definitely not about what's the best for our ego. So I think once you allow that, then it's much easier. I think another big thing is like, you have to be able to communicate. So you have to be able to like listen. You have to be able to also not like jump to conclusions and make rash decisions, and you can't let emotion get in the way of like reason. You have to be able to not like always react. You have to also be able to like understand the other person. And I think something for us that actually worked as a blessing was that we were long distance. And because we had no choice. The only way we can do anything is we have to talk.
Yeah, that's very true.
So there is no other option. Oh, you're mad, let's talk about it. I'm mad, let's talk about it. But actually, we've never really had disagreement.
Emotion, though, does play into it. I think actually that's like, that's good in theory, but it's not true. Like, if you hurt my feelings, well, then you're actually just being a freaking asshole, and I don't freaking like you right now. Like, what is actually the matter with you? So it's more about really caring about the other person, and then being humble enough to like say you're sorry, or like admit that you're wrong. Because I am basically mean as fuck, and I do not mean to be. I love everyone so much, but I am brutal. Like, I am just brutal, and I am loud. That's the fun thing about Hollie and I. So basically, if we disagree, I am louder than you. So then when Hollie stops talking, oh, I have actually fucked up, because she is mad. I'm like, oh God, I've made her mad. So then I had to give her a space, and then I had to call her on the phone. If it's on Zoom, it's over. Goodbye. We are not talking about it. And I have to call her on the phone and say, hi, I'm so sorry I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Can we talk about this? Because it's, at the end of the day, business is personal.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, the decisions you make should be business focused, but we are people and we have emotions. And sometimes we're going to say something that's offensive, or we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. But it is, again, about like, at the end of the day, we care enough about each other to make it right and to apologize and to do better. And so I'd say that any partnership, whether it be like a romantic and especially a business partnership, like, you have got to not only really like know that communication is really critical at the start, but you actually, it is like a marriage. You have to constantly work on it. Like even now we still learn things and triggers with each other that like, if one of us does this, it'll make the other person feel this way. Like we're still learning a lot about one another.
And you have to also be willing to then change your behavior. Like one thing that I learned about Chelsea is that if she has written something and she sends it to me and she asks me for my feedback, so I'm thinking she would like me to give feedback. So I just go right in. Okay, so let's edit this. Let's edit this. What about this? Should we say this in a different way?
You're sounding really nice and British right now. That is not how you fucking sound. You misspelled this. What do you mean there? What is that talking about? I'm like, do you know how long I just fucking worked on that stupid thing?
I'm being like efficient and I'm doing exactly what she's asking. However, what we've now learned is I need to say, honey, that is so great. You did such a good job. This is so good. I have a few thoughts. Would you like to discuss them now?
And it's
then basically I'm asking.
It's because my number one love language is words of affirmation. So what is obviously wrong with you? I'm amazing. You can take your typo and fuck yourself. Like, no. So when Hollie realized, oh dear, don't give immediate feedback ever to Chelsea's work, now it's much more smooth. And also I know it's really funny now though, because it's so obvious, because she just butters me up before she like hits me with some shit. And I'm like, okay, what do you want? Because now I know it's like, is it even genuine? Probably not, but she's just trying to make me feel better before she totally creams my writing.
Like you have to be willing to change your behavior. You know, like if you want it to work with the other person, like a business partnership literally is like a marriage. Every day isn't perfect. Yep. But overall, like I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. So it is always worth it to keep going, and no problem is like too big to solve. You basically have to keep choosing the other person, just like in marriage, you know, and be committed to growing together and doing those things. And I mean, we're talking about the hard stuff now, but like most of the time it's like the funnest thing ever. So then like these things easier.
To answer in total the question, I'd say the biggest thing that I think can set you up for success is trying to identify different areas of expertise that you would own. Because I think if you are the owner currently and you're bringing on a spouse or a new person and they're meant to sit in the seat beside you that is carved for one, that is very, not that it's impossible, but that takes a very, very, really amazing and patient person to be able to then suddenly cut their chair in half. Whereas I think if you can put a chair beside of you that fundamentally has a different type of ownership, it is much more possible.
Yeah. Do you ever disagree on what the long-term vision is?
No. The things we disagree about are really just like trivial things that just honestly don't matter in a week.
Okay.
You know, like they're just
I also think that like we have so many choices, and so it never feels like by choosing A, B is off the table.
Yeah.
So it's more like we're going to choose A for right now, and let's see where that path takes us. And then maybe next quarter we'll put like our time and energy into bucket B. So I also don't feel like when we make decisions, it's like, oh, I want to do what I want to do, so we're not going to do what you want to do. I think it's like knowing that by choosing anything that we're going to go after, it doesn't mean like totally saying goodbye to maybe somebody else's interest.
Yeah. And most of the time, say like Chelsea has an idea, or if I have an idea and maybe one of us slightly disagrees, often actually the disagreement helps because then we make the original idea better. So if Chelsea has an idea and we talk about it and I say, oh, I'm not sure about this element of it, what if we did it this way? Then that will prompt Chelsea to think, oh, okay, yes, what if we tweak this part? So then we kind of come up with an evolutionized idea together that we then agree on. So I actually think fundamentally it makes us better because we just talk about things more and then we create a better version. It's not just one person's idea that goes out the door.
Yeah, no, I 100% believe that, because even like when you're working with your students, right? Like I even tell my clients, like, I want you to question me. Like if I give you advice on something, like I want you to like ask me like, well, why do you think that? Like, what is how did you come to that decision? Like I want you to actively like question the advice that you're getting, which I don't think there's enough of that online. I think people just take blanket statements for what they are, and that like pisses the shit out of me. But yeah, when you have a partner, when you have a mentor, when you're in a group program or a mastermind, like you're constantly forced to like question things, which is how you actually get to a better outcome.
Better. Yes. Yes. And it's like we're very different too. So again, like everything about how we think, our background, like even like what we've done in like corporate, our businesses, our
Yeah.
skill set, like our niche, like everything was different, which is actually really good because then it brings like two minds together for one idea instead of just one mind with no place to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. What has been your most recent disagreement?
I don't know. It's more, I don't know, Facebook ad budget. Should we up it? How much should we up it by?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That is like, oh my God, Holly did the really wrong thing to send me a screenshot of our total expenses.
No.
Goodbye.
It's basically
Literally.
Also,
so then I started going
realized-
down the list and I was like, oh my God. So what about this? Do you think we should just work, you and me and just the whole team? Like, are we well? What are we doing? Oh my God. And I was like, you need to chill, look at the revenue and then look at the expenses. You're acting crazy. I'm like, so don't ever send that to me again or everybody's fired immediately.
So now
And
we
she
have
was
learned,
like,
because basically one time I sent her a screenshot of like, it was more like an analytics bit of some
Yes.
ads, and it had the total budget in the corner, which I'm so aware. I look at that stuff all the time. So like, I'm aware those big numbers don't frighten me.
Yes.
But then I sent it to Chelsea, and that wasn't even the point of it. It was like a small part of it, and that's the only thing she could see. And I was like,
so then I screenshot just that part and sent it over. She's like, so out of the whole thing, that's what you got? I was like,
not the point of it.
What is this? No.
But actually, every time we disagree about anything, we look at it as an opportunity to think, okay, how can we do things, say like that? Okay, right. Actually, that's just maybe something that I own and like you're good. And we agree an overall parameter budget, but basically the day-to-day in between smaller shifts, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
I'd say we don't really, I feel like it's the same thing with Christine and I. Like, I think when you really found like your real partner, I just feel like you don't straight on have like a dog out fight. Like Christine will irritate the shit out of me, but it's not like we're like truly at a massive disagreement where our marriage is at stake.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we do things that are like, oh my God, don't do that. Or she's probably like, why are you literally freaking out? Well, just don't do that. It's a weird thing for me. I don't know why I act like that. I don't know.
Like, oh my God, Dom likes to go to the airport 14 hours early. Fine. So like, probably we're going to have a slight disagreement most times about what time we're going to get there, but it's not a real disagreement. It's just like I don't think we need to go 4 hours early. I think probably 3, maybe 2.5. I'm like, we usually meet in the middle at 3 and it's fine. And it's usually some kind of disagreement each time because we're going to get into it because he wants to go 4 hours and I'm happy with 2.5. So I'd say it's kind of just the same. Like it's the same as when you find your person, no disagreement is ever that big of a deal.
And
I think also
even if you're not interested in a partnership, like I'm clearly not, but I still like value community.
I'm clearly not.
I'm a manifesting generator, so that would be an actual nightmare for me. So
that's hilarious.
But I feel like even if you're not interested in a partnership, like you still need a sounding board, right? Because like I can't imagine not having like a community or a place to go to where I at least have like somebody listen to my thoughts and ideas and be like, am I sounding crazy, or like is this an actual issue? And I feel like for a lot of business owners who are in that state of mind of like, I don't need a community, I don't need a mentor or like whatever it even is, but like it's going to be really quite near impossible to do this like completely solo without even like a sounding board to go to. Like you're not going to be able to scale as far as you think like alone. Like you truly will go farther with at least a community behind you.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like the premise of what like our company is built on is like connection. And I think that when days that like something kind of sideways gets thrown at us or just something really unexpected, like it is so, I feel like our marriages, like our personal marriages have gotten so much better because we don't then bring that burden to them.
Oh yes.
Because like basically my evenings were me talking about my company to Christine. God bless her. I'd have been like, I'd like an immediate divorce. Can you literally talk about anything else? in your freaking business.
Yes.
So now we have each other, like, and I
Yeah.
don't think you necessarily need a partner for that. Like, I think there's a variety of people that, like you're saying, you can bounce ideas off of. But I
Mhm.
do think in the same way that like we're really like pro therapy, like I
Yep.
don't think that your friends or your partner should be like your therapist or like your
Oh,
business coach. Like,
100%. Like, yeah,
you
and
know,
I talk about this a lot where I'm like, your husband, wife, friends, like whatever it is in your community, in your personal life, like they didn't sign up to hold the space for you to do this. Like it's really
yeah.
not fair for them. And even like your business besties, like it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, like the three of us are really good friends and we text all the time, but like I would never like be like, Chelsea, I need help with X, Y, and Z, and you have to talk to me about this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's also like a boundaries issue. So like I
Yeah.
don't expect, if I want that kind of help, like I'll hire somebody to help me, whether that be a coach or a community or a mastermind. Like it's really not fair that we expect these people to hold space for us. Like that's why masterminds exist. That's why your community exists, because
Right.
those people are signing up to be like, I want to help you and therefore I want help also. Like let's together
Yes.
help each other.
Yes. And then you're in the right mental space to then
Yeah.
like be accepting of that and then
Yep.
be ready to like give support. Cause yeah, I mean, we literally go on a walk every day for like Christine and I for like an hour. And literally by the time we got back, oh, I'd just be on topic number 2. And she would have to literally tell me, like, honey, can we talk about something else? And then like,
Yes.
right. And then like there's like some guilt associated because I'm like, holy crap, like it's actually really bleeding into my personal life. But
Yep.
it's really hard to like put that separation in, especially as an entrepreneur. So I'd say Holly and I fill that void now where our actual spouses don't have to be our business therapist every single evening.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so much better because it means like that then time is like special and
Mhm.
separate. So
Appropriately used. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's like dinner times can be different. You can have a date night, just part of your every day. I think it's like nice to have that
Yeah.
person or
And
people.
yeah, and those people in your life just can't understand as supportive as they are, they just will never understand because they're not physically in your shoes. They're not doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So how can you expect them to give you like really solid advice that's not coming from a place of like, yeah, I support you, but I don't actually have any like critical feedback to give you.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's almost impossible,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like yesterday we had a group call in my mastermind and I was like, "Okay, so how is everybody feeling after we did like this analysis exercise?" And one woman was like, "I just feel so much less alone after doing this with this community." Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, exactly, because this is a very what we do is very lonely." Like, and especially like we
Yeah.
work from home, so not only are we physically alone, but then we're in our heads and we have to do all of this work alone. And like if you're not in a safe space where you feel like you can be vulnerable and be like, you guys, I literally just had like a mental breakdown because my client said X, Y, and Z to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
unless you feel like you're in a safe space to do that, like you're physically going to go insane.
I, yeah. I mean, I think it leads to like true burnout, like true burnout. Cause then often what people do is then they fill that void with creating.
Yes.
Cause then like you're in your head and then you're worried and then you're a little panicked. So then you want to do something. So you take action and
Yep.
often action is like a new thing, a new project, a
Yep.
new
Yep.
offer, a
It's
new
not
thing.
intentional.
It's not intentional, but it's
Yep.
all rooted in the fact that you're often quite alone and you're making assumptions and you have stories in your
Yep.
head and it just turns into a bit of a vicious cycle.
A
Yeah,
hundred
like
percent.
I'm grateful that we have each other to like constantly break those cycles of thoughts, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what they
Yeah.
are, what they're about. It is great, but whether a partnership is for you or not, either way, just have a community that
Mm-hmm.
is
And
in the
hold,
same
yeah.
kind of place that you're at.
Yes, yes, and being in a community where people are at different levels or different industries. So even in my mastermind, a lot of women in my mastermind are very much like things have to be done in a very certain way and then they start spiraling very easily. But when they do, they know they can be like, "Hey guys, this just happened and now I feel like my life is over. Can somebody please bring me down to earth?" And it's
Yeah.
so great because whether it's me or some of the other women in the group, like we all have like similar values and we have similar visions for our businesses, but we all do very different things and we're all at very different levels. And so just having other people's perspectives kind of gives you that aha moment of like, wow, one, I'm not alone. And two, I never thought of it that way. And then all of a sudden, like, they come back down to earth and they don't spiral and they don't mass create. Cause I'm really big into intentionality, and like, I'm for more pausing and internally doing an audit versus just like, oh my God, I'm spiraling, I need to create more. Cause that just never works out.
No.
Absolutely not. So what is like the long-term vision of her HQ?
Hollie,
I think it's
projector.
bigger than us. Yes, I think like the vision is bigger than us. Like, we've done so much over the last 2 years. I think we've accomplished so many amazing things, but for us, the biggest thing we want to do is just have a bigger impact, help more women. And I'm really, really excited about where the future is going to go. I think it's about being intentional while also being open to opportunities and seeing where things take us. But I think fundamentally, we just want women to be in a position to have more choice. And often, just because of the world that we live in, especially America, very capitalist, women don't have as many choices and opportunities if they don't have as much money. And specifically,
100%.
we want women to have their own money that isn't tied to anyone else.
Yep.
They have their own money that they earn, that is theirs, and that they also have access to a way to easily earn money. And they feel really good about that. I think like something I love about Chelsea is she is so confident. And I feel like her like gift in this world is to also help other women become more confident. So I think like Chelsea sort of instills confidence in people in like their abilities. And I feel like I like to show people that there's other ways that you can do things. Like, here's this path, here's this path, here's this path. But whichever path you choose, you don't have to stay on the path that you're on.
Yes. Well, I feel like that we're just talking about like brand architects, like Chelsea is definitely like the ruler and Hollie's definitely like the lover. so like
Mom
Hollie is
and dad.
Yes.
Lovely.
So Hollie is definitely like the empathy versus Chelsea brings the confidence and the like tenacity, but together that's like the yin and the yang. And that's even from like spending time with you in person, like it definitely just like works. And you can't even like explain it, but it just
you
like
can't
works.
explain it.
Yes.
Because on paper, you're like, this is a disaster waiting to happen. It really is. You're like, what do they even talk about? Like, what would you even talk about? Where would you even go to eat or drink? No idea.
Yes.
Like, it's so different. But I think that strange, it's like this weird, like, I literally feel like Christine and I were meant to somehow fall on the same path. Like I actually had like dated like somebody that she knew in the military. I actually had a girlfriend at one point that lived in the same apartment as her at one point. What the hell? Like, how is that even possible?
Divine intervention.
I know.
Just was meant to be.
I think so. And I think that it's like same with Hollie and I. Like on paper, it actually can be hard to like put together, but like in real life, in the flesh, it's like it just makes sense. And you're like,
100%.
Okay, not what I was expecting, but it totally makes sense.
Yeah. And I feel like because we were like, you know, long distance and I was in the UK and she was in the US, I think at first we'd only ever communicated between us on Zoom and then like with our students on Zoom, and we hadn't been to anything with other people. I mean, because we hadn't even met in person.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting is the first time we started to go to things together and meet other people could see it. They could see why we worked. So I think it's even more powerful in person. Like when you see us two together, you realize that like it just works. Like I feel like we were just meant to do this together.
Well, I would love to hear about each other's icks. I mean, clearly you went over with the tone of voice and copy, but Chelsea,
that's not even okay. So I thought about this one. So my ick with Hollie is like so stupid. But so when we upload videos, Hollie uploads the freaking Loom title and doesn't name it. Like it should be like
that's an ick.
Program module 1, video 1. Like it's literally so easy. And if
I'll just call it like foundations something
with the period .mp4,
Oh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 7,
no.
12.
Oh,
So what you look at,
no.
you see our videos, and literally mine are perfectly labeled. And then you see Hollie's, and it's like 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, foundations 15. And I'm like, what is don't you see the rule? And Hollie's like, no, I don't see what you're talking about. That is my ick. I could literally kill her. What is actually wrong with you?
Holly,
wrong?
your rebuttal.
I mean, I have no rebuttal to that. Basically, my rebuttal to that is we are currently in the process of editing all of those names. But yeah, it's just like one of those things, best intentions, but she loves me anyway.
What is your ick about Chelsea?
So we have this name, Chelsea, which is an arsonist, and she just like, if depending on how she's feeling, she just might light something up. So sometimes I have to get in there quickly and move something, because Chelsea's like an emotional decision maker.
Yeah.
But basically we just find a workaround and it's cool. But like Chelsea loves the freedom to do what she wants each day. So the inability to conform to a schedule. Like if I would like to do something at the same time every week, she's like, no.
Oh, that would piss me off too, because I'm very like the manifesting generator in me is like I literally plan out my itineraries on vacation like down to like the half hour, and like
that is so weird.
I find that so fun.
It's
but
a vacation.
But that's
you have
fun.
a list of stuff you want to get done, and you're going to leave
Exactly.
without getting
Something is
done.
literally the matter with both of you. The fact that you just said that you have a list of shit you want to get done on vacation, I think you both need to fundamentally look at what a vacation
But I would
means.
feel like it's like I'm like wasting. I'm like I literally spent all this money to go to France, and now I'm not even gonna do the stuff that I want to like do. Like to me, like that is literally gonna send me in like a panic attack.
Yes,
like
me and John went to New York for Christmas, and
Yeah.
so we had a predefined schedule ahead
Yes.
of time. So we'd book things. It was like, okay, right, this morning we're going to go here, then we're gonna go here, and we left like flexibility for we're not sure where we're going to go for lunch, but lunch will be here.
Probably like planned adventures. What a literal oxymoron! Like
I
that.
like planned adventures too.
No. So Holly gets to going.
So
She's like, so every day at this time we're gonna do this. Okay, well you can literally take me off that invite because I won't fucking be there. I hate that. I literally became an entrepreneur because I like my freedom. I like to do what I want to do. Like right after this, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go get a coffee because I want to. And you don't like it? Well, I don't care.
I love freedom too, but I also really love structure. But the structure allows for my freedom.
A structure.
Yes.
Freedom within structure.
Yes.
No. I like to plan. So like I already
This is the difference though, as to why you guys wear underwear under your leggings and I don't. Do you see? This is it. This is a different manifestation of that. You like freedom. What do you like? What did you say? Freedom within structure. Freedom within structure. Oh no, I like all freedom. We got no underwear on here. Okay. I'm into the full ass freedom. Full ass freedom is my preference. Thanks.
Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, which nobody knows because we've never said this out loud, but last year the three of us did this like Airbnb weekend together in Charleston, and we were all wearing different pajamas, and they were so indicative of who we are as people. So I literally had like silk $100 pajamas on. Chelsea had like a raggedy t-shirt, and then Holly had like this cute like pajama set, but it was like kind of like for children.
Oh my god, yeah.
And Chelsea was like, oh my god, I've literally never seen anything as literal as this on the pajamas.
Our brands are defined by our nightwear. Oh, and it was my old fuzzy like brown ass socks on the bottom.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That's where this.
I like matching set, but like
I'm
not bougie enough for silk. Like I'm good just with my normal cotton pajamas.
Yes.
I basically don't wear anything to bed. Oh, that's how this started because I sleep in the nude.
Yeah.
And then we were like, that's how then we progressed.
Yes.
Like, how do we suddenly decide that I didn't have underwear on? Where did that come into play? But maybe that was a progression.
I don't think that was a conversation that I don't think I even knew that you didn't wear underwear.
And then basically the rest of the trip, you guys kept looking at me. I was like, what are you thinking? I don't have underwear on.
This conversation just like went
really
like X-rated.
I know. Oh god. And to everybody listening, now you know Chelsea's a deep dark secret.
Yeah, but I think it's so funny because like Chelsea's like was an officer in the military, like project manager, but literally couldn't hate structure and planning more. Whereas like I'm like a creative.
Yes. That's
And so
what's
you
so
think
funny.
that I wouldn't like that.
Yes, in other people's businesses,
Yeah.
we could bring those things. So like as an OBM, like, oh, I will hold your ass to a timeline and like you're gonna get your shit done on time
Yes.
every time.
Yes.
But when it's me and my interests, oh, you literally don't need to tell me what to do. I won't be doing that. I'm not gonna be doing that.
But it's specifically like repetitive things because give us a challenge and give us a short deadline. Oh, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Like we do thrive. We love it. Like every
Yes.
so often we just throw in a curveball of a really unrealistic plan. And there's just some joy in doing it.
Yeah.
And just getting it done. But yeah, I think that is so funny.
Amazing. Well, to end this off, I do something called like a perspective check where because now that you've obviously had all this success, and it's amazing, I would love to ask you 2 questions each because you obviously have your own perspectives because you're 2 individual humans, even though you're married technically. So
Yes.
what is something you no longer value that you used to at the very beginning?
We found these questions kind of hard to
They're
really
supposed to be.
I know.
I know.
So mine was more around like my priorities. I feel like my priorities earlier on, before we'd, made, it's not even all about money, but before all of these things, I feel like the hustle was important. Putting in the hours was important. I was like in that mentality, and work really was the priority. What I kind of learned over time, I'd say my priorities have now shifted, and actually like health is one of my top priorities, and it wasn't. But I have a habit where it's probably the projector in me. I don't really have an off button that I can turn on myself. I'm not very good at identifying when I need to stop or slow down. So my body has this weird way of doing it for me in quite unexpected and terrible ways. So the first time this ever happened was probably the first time I actually ever experienced burnout. And I was spending the first Christmas ever with my husband's family, and me and his mom and cousin went to the cinema on like Christmas Eve. And on the way back, out of nowhere, I just didn't feel very well, and I threw up on myself. What's wrong with me? Like,
in her car?
in her car, all over myself.
Wow.
Great.
What an impression.
Yeah, so that was wonderful. And so then I basically slept through Christmas and was unavailable, and she bought all this food, and obviously they all eat meat and I'm vegetarian, so that was not ideal. I know. And then Chelsea came to London, I got appendicitis, and also this is like who we are as people, and I'm trying to unlearn this behavior. Is we're walking around London and I basically would like to make sure my husband has a great time, so I'm like, honey, I'm fine, let's see Buckingham Palace, let's do this, let's see this, and we walked like 20,000 steps, and I have appendicitis, so I'm like very uncomfortable and in a lot of pain, so much so that I can literally feel like I pass out, but I'm like, I'm fine. And then I basically went to the emergency room. They're like, you're gonna have an operation because your appendix might burst.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we moved here, again, it was kind of just like so I think what I'm learning now is that like health is a priority, and listen to the signals first. And like there's this guy who I love his podcast, he's called Stephen Bartlett, and he basically talks about health as the table. So the table is your health and everything else sits on top of the table. And so as soon as you remove the table, you have nothing, because it's all going to fall all over the floor. So like you have to work for that. So I think that is something that just like my priorities and like values have shifted over time. Sometimes not through.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it's like a lesson you like don't learn until you like go through it. So one of the other female founders I've interviewed on the podcast, her name is Jennifer, and she's a French pastry chef. So she like owns her own business. She had cancer at 32 during COVID, like breast cancer. And like that was her perspective shift of like, I was go, like I was like militant, I was a French pastry chef. And then like after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do things my way from now on. So it's like navigating business through the lens of recovering from breast cancer at such a young age, and especially as a business owner. So that was a really interesting conversation, and her perspective was completely shifted. So yeah, that's a really good one. Chelsea, what about you?
So I am, as we talked about, a generator. So I every day just have like a freakish amount of an ability to just get shit done. Like I'm like a robot. Like Christine is like, I've literally never met anybody like you who can just do just like a crazy amount of shit. Like I feel like I can do in one day what a lot of people would take a week to do. And it's just like who I am. but I think part of that, like I definitely have like had a lot of pride in the past on how much I can produce in say like a week. Because basically I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Look at my huge list of shit I did. Like, come on, people, what are you doing? But I'm also realizing that my energy is my power. So what I've had to learn is that in the past, it's like I don't want to say I'm a people pleaser, but I love people.
Yeah.
So if I love you, I will actually like go out of my way and say yes to shit that I shouldn't, because I just like I can get it done for you. I maybe shouldn't do it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to do that. Boom, boom, boom. And I like take on things. So I think the biggest thing, as especially as we've scaled and as our demands of the business have kind of shifted over time, is that I've had to get more comfortable with just saying no to
That's
things.
a big one. Yes.
Because like even like on a personal level, you know, since I started my business in 2019 officially is like probably when it really kicked off. I gained like 20 pounds, stopped working out, you know what I mean? Like I probably started drinking more. I just like, my priorities went from working a bit, some health, fitness, family, you know, it was like kind of a 3-way split to like 95% of my energy was on business. So I was making a fuckload, but I was eating a fuckload too. So like, I just was all of my energy and attention just went to one thing, and then other things like suffered because of that. And so like I'd say Hollie's is more of like getting sick. Mine is more about like having to be aware that like my superpower is my energy, and people often want to be in that energy, but sometimes I have to say no. Like you can't have it, even though I have it and I want to give it to you. If I give it to you, it doesn't go to something else that it needs to go to. So, you know, over the past like 4 months, I've had to really clean up where I spend my time. So I've like did the Signos thing, like trying to like, so I've been like losing weight, working out again, like spending time going, like seeing my family more. I think it's, as someone who can go, business is one of those weird things that like that cash can sometimes be a reward to where it lets you ignore the other really important parts of your life.
Yes.
And I've had to now, like Hollie and I always talk about this, I think, and Anna, you probably know this too. There's this like weird obsession to hit certain numbers. Like it's like 100,000, then it's like 500,000, and then it's 1 million. And I think that like once you've hit those numbers, it's this weird thing where every time you hit one, you think you're going to feel different, and you don't.
Yeah.
And so I think that like what really like proved to me is like when we started hitting all of these financial goals, and then I didn't feel different, but then suddenly I was overweight, tired, and exhausted. It was like, what's the fucking point of it? Like, why
100%.
literally doing this? And so
those milestones are truly fleeting moments. And don't get me wrong, like you should 100% celebrate those milestones, because it is like you're literally doing something that like 0.001% of the population will ever do in their lifetime, which is amazing. But at the same time, I've also hit a point where like, no, the money is great, but like I'm like, but like what else? Like there has to be something else besides just like looking at a number in a bank account. So
that's right.
Really,
and the money doesn't solve your problems.
No, yes.
You know?
It's a tool for an easier life. Yeah.
It's like a weird, it's like a goal that you think that you're going to feel some kind of weird change. Like you're going to change as a person when you hit this money.
No.
Oh,
and
no,
often
girl,
you say, I'm going to change my behavior.
You're the same girl with the same ugly socks. Like nothing's changed, you know?
Exactly. And like you say, I'm going to prioritize my health once we just do this, once we just hit that, once we do this. But like the actual truth is you never will, because once you hit that, nothing actually changes. You don't wake up overnight and say, okay, because I hit this now, I am going to change everything. It's less attached to a milestone and more just like a decision you have to make, and like make it consciously. And I think now we're just in a place where we're ready to change some of those like old thoughts that we had and just say, you know what, I want things to be different. And I'm going to behave differently, because if you want things to be different, you have to be different. Like
100%.
Never trying to work myself so hard that I throw off myself. That is literally terrible. You know, but it's like you have to have boundaries.
Yes,
know?
100%. It's definitely like a behavior and perspective check. Cause I also, when I work with people who are more like starting out, like foundationally, go like, well, if I could just get to 10K, I would have more confidence. And I'll be like, listen,
No.
I know you think that, but I can guarantee you, if your mindset is a complete shit at 2K, it's not going to get any better at 50K. Like, you're just gonna go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
And
right. Well,
basically,
thank you.
that's the answer.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. If anybody wants to find out more about Her HQ, where can they find you?
On the gram, herhq.co is the only one. Y'all, we had people trying to steal our mess last week. My God. So yeah, and on our website, herhq.co, they're the same, Instagram and website. You'll see all of our goodies and information there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.